We will now create the what and who section, which we see right here. This is in fact a nested responsive grid. So initially we'll see that everything is stacked on top of each other. Image, heading, text and button, and then the same thing down under with a little different text. So when we reach the large breakpoint right there, the nested grids turns into 2 column grids. But we still have 2 main items stacked on top of each other. When we reach an even larger breakpoint, we can see that it turns into a 2 column grid. So that's how we can see that this is a nested grid system. Let's see how we create this. Inside of our container, we'll create the new grid. So we add a div tag with the class row. We'll also add the class what who, since we need to tweak this a little bit later with custom CSS. Now we have our first column, div tag with the class col, which will be 12 columns wide initially, and then for extra large devices it turns into a 2 column grid. So we can copy and paste that. Inside of this we'll now create our nested grid using a new div tag with the class row, and then a div tag with the class col S12 and L6. So initially 12 columns wide, and for large devices 6 columns wide. Inside of this we'll have our image tag, which will be the image 800 times 600, no, 800 times 800 dot png, and we give it the class responsive img to make it responsive, and also the class circle to make it round. Then we create the other column for the heading, text and link, col S12 L6. Here we have our heading, what we do, and then a paragraph, and I'll just grab the text from in here, like so, paste it in. And then we'll add our link styled as a button, so we use the anchor tag with the class btn and the text read more. Alright, so now we'll simply copy all of this, paste it here, change the heading to who we are. So to recap a bit before we see it in the browser, we have the outer grid system, the row with 2 columns that initially will take up the full width, and for extra large devices half of the width. Inside of this we have another grid system in both of them that initially have 2 columns stacked on top of each other, and then for large devices turns into a 2 column grid. So 1 breakpoint before the outer grid turns into a 2 column grid. Okay, so let's save this, go back and refresh. Let's decrease the width of our browser window. Here we see everything being stacked. Then when we reach the large breakpoint, the 2 nested grid system will turn into a 2 column grid right there. And when we reach the extra large breakpoint right there, the main or outer grid system turns into a 2 column grid. Now we only need to tweak a little bit. We can see that the margin top of the headings need to be adjusted. So we go back here and go up to the style tag in the head tag. Inside of this we'll target what who, that was the class we added down here ourselves, right there. So we target that, and then the H2 elements inside of it. We set the margin top to 0. Save, go back and refresh. Now it looks like what we wanted it to be. So we have now completed the what and who section.